Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter and RaggedyEdge.net. A little something different. Cats versus dogs, which is better as a pet? And if you've seen any or a few of my videos, you probably noticed that cats are often running about in the background. But let's back up a little bit first. Why do we choose even cats and dogs versus other things like reptiles or fish? Well, it's mammalian bonding, I think, is what that comes down to. Fish. Fish are a great, not a particularly great pet. They're more or less decoration. I was looking at fish at the local pet shop one time, and I was going to get a bunch of kind of exotic looking little fishies and put them in my fish tank and create this nice little, kind of chill, peaceful, serene landscape or fishscape in my home. And so, and then I noticed that these fish, it's kind of like buying a printer for a computer. You can buy a printer for like 30 bucks and then you go around to get the ink cartridges for it and they're like 150. And fish are kind of the same way. You get these little fish and they're pretty cheap. But then you find out how much it costs to feed the little bastards. Well, so I came up with a solution. So, the first time I bought fish, I got them home, and when it came time to feed them, once my fish were hungry, I said, well, shit, food costs so much, fish costs so little, I'm gonna just flush these hungry motherfuckers down the toilet, and I'll go to the local pet shop and buy some already fed fish. Now, kind of to be a little bit humorous there, but that kind of highlights that, fish, while they're pretty and they're decoration, you don't really bond with them, or they certainly can't bond with you. You have to be almost a little bit psychologically, I think, defective to bond with a fish or a reptile or snakes or whatever, because to you they're just food and heat. But anyway, for cats and dogs, we're quite a bit more than that. Now, we've had a couple of really great dogs. One was a Malamute German Shepherd Lab mix. It was just huge and the most gentle creature you would ever see. Kids would just go body slam on him and he would just lay there and play around. He would walk the local kids to school, and then he was even well known by the local pound. The animal control officer knew him and would just pick him up and drop him off at the house after he walked the kids to school. Real gentle creature. Only time I ever saw him get angry, one time there was a German Shepherd and a little collie we were just out playing around, and the German Shepherd accidentally ran over atop the collie. It wasn't, malicious or anything, but it kind of hurt the little collie. He yelped, and our dog just grabbed the German Shepherd by the neck and just kind of body slammed him back and forth. I mean, it was a huge dog. I mean, a German Shepherd was nothing compared to his size. And just kind of held him down. Was like, hey, watch out, and just let him go, and walked away. That was the only time I ever saw him kind of show any anger. And then we had another dog that was actually just visited us for a while. He was lost, and we found him, and he needed a bunch of dental work, and he wasn't yet neutered, so we took care of that and fed him, and I took him out to the Badlands with me shooting a lot, and he was pretty good around guns, and he was an Australian Shepherd, so a real high energy dog. Took a lot of effort to burn off some of that energy, which I don't think we ever did. I'd throw a ball and he would just go and go and go and go and never stop. And he would love to dig. Dug up the backyard. Backyard looked like World War I. There were just pockets of like crater shells everywhere. The gardens were wiped out. The tennis plants were demolished, and then fortunately, one day a family came by and said, I knocked on the door, and they said, we think you have our dog in your backyard. And we're like, thank God. Here's his shot records, here's his medical records, here's all the dog food, here's his toys, here's everything. Thank you. And we're really glad to see him go, even though we actually liked him a lot. He was really friendly and everything. But dogs, they're really needy. And and they roll in shit and dead things, so sometimes they come back, he would just covered in shit and dead smell, and was just horrific. But the thing that gets me about dogs is, I mean, I like dogs. I love to visit other people's dogs, but dogs are really needy. It's like a girlfriend who's got low self-esteem. It's like you've got to be paying attention to them all the time, or else their self-esteem is just crushed, you know. And then also is the whole obedience thing. And it's like for people, I can't stand, you know, I just don't respect people that are obedient, you know, that are compliant. And it's the same thing with dogs, whereas cats are definitely not obedient. And a cat typically looks at you as an equal, and so you almost have to, well, think of them as your equal as well. We're just not going to get along. And while they can bond with you very tightly, our cats just adore us and will follow us all over hiking and stuff. You're not going to, you know, be their master. You're a partner. Now, of course, one thing is a dog can be a defender, and they have the capacity of fighting off an aggressor. Although I think for self-defense, a better dog is something a little smaller that will alert you to an issue. Now, a lot of people look at dogs and go, oh, if my dog doesn't like someone, I don't trust them. And in my view, they've got it backwards. I think that a dog basically keys in on their master's a dog keys in on their master's intuition or views on a person, and it basically adopts what their master thinks. So if it sees that their master is suspicious of someone, Jasper's just growling at something. Anyway, if a master is suspicious of another person, the dog picks that up and then becomes suspicious of them. If the master, the dog's master is fearful of another person, that dog's going to be, fearful of them. If the master is welcoming and feels friendly to another person, then the dog is going to be that way as well. So when I see a dog, if a dog's behaving friendly to me, I don't look at it as the dog has this intuition and detects my, goodwill or anything, but rather that the dog is keying in on this master's, friendliness towards me, and therefore behaves well towards me as well. Now maybe there's some differences if you run into a dog, on its own and a dog greets you friendly. I think that has more to do with how a dog is raised. If a dog is raised to not be fearful, then dogs can be quite friendly off leash. Now, you of course get a dog on the leash, you get the whole leash aggression thing, and which is I run into that a lot on mountain biking. A little more worried when I greet trail runners that have their dogs on leash than I am the trail runners that have their dogs running free. I very readily will greet dogs that are running free. Dogs on leash, I have to approach them with quite considerable caution. Now anyway, dogs can be a defender, but I think they're better as for raising the alarm and alerting to you, and then you be the defender. Now, of course, a cat's not going to defend you. At least it's pretty rare. I mean, you might see some videos on YouTube where, like there's that famous video where the cat, protected a little baby from, a dangerous dog. But it's pretty unusual. I don't expect my cats to defend me, and except for Jasper, who will growl at what he considers a threat. I don't get much alert from them either. Now, one cool thing I do like about dogs is, for me, for mountain biking, a dog could go with me, could trail run with me. There are breeds of dogs that could handle the kind of distances I do on a mountain bike and would probably enjoy it a lot. Now, the cats can't quite handle that. They do love to go hiking with us and will follow us on a trail for miles, but if it's shaded, they don't like going out in the hot sun. But our cats will follow us for miles, but they can't keep up with a mountain bike. That's just too much. Now, the things we do like about cats, one is they're meticulously clean, and cleanliness Okay, maybe it's close to godliness, I guess. Okay, so that's one thing I really like about cats. They don't typically roll in shit and dead animals and come home smelling like crap. So that's the thing about cats. They shit in their litter box inside and cover it up, and even outside they're going to cover their mess up, so you don't have, you know, where you'll have dog crap just scattered all over the place in your backyard. Cats will at least, you know, bury it, you know, and usually under the bushes or something. And you can leave cats at home alone inside the house, or in our case in a motorhome, and they're not going to shred the place. I've seen pictures on the internet in the RV nomad community where dogs have been left inside of a motorhome, and the dog, in its, you know, anxiety and panic, the separation anxiety, has actually clawed its way through the door and dug a hole through the door. So that's the kind of things you'll run into with dogs that you do not run into with cats. It's just, cats are chill. There's no anxiety issues with cats. They're also quite resilient on their own. Now, one thing we found with our cats is that we've had 3 cats, and as we're traveling, one of them has passed away, the Cartman, who was our probably all-time best adventure kitty, and I'll include a link down below to our memorial to Cartman with his life of adventure on the road. But cats, you know, people think that cats, herding cats, how do you keep track of them? You let them go when you get to a place and they run free, don't they run away? Well, each cat has actually gotten lost once, and typically they'll be gone for 4 to 5 days, and it's pretty worrisome, you know, when they're gone that long. But once they get back, it appears that they were truly lost, and did have to find their way back and maybe suffer a little bit of anxiety and trouble to find their way home to the motor coach. And they learn their lesson from that, because after that they become very keyed in on where their coach is at. We go hiking, and they'll be looking back and taking a note of where the motor coach is at, and then when we get out of sight of the coach, they start kind of complaining a bit and getting worried about it. And then we've never had them get lost after that. They're always hanging around the coach. They'll you know, maybe go 100 yards away, but they're always on their own, go 100 yards away and you know, explore, but they always keep the coach in sight. Now, we did have one time where Vicky jumped out of the window while we were stopped at a Chinese restaurant. Now, think how fortunate she was there. But she jumped out of the window at a Chinese restaurant, and we didn't know it, and we left her behind. And it wasn't until about 100 miles later we stopped and noticed she was gone. And my wife Tina drove back the 100 miles back to that area to see if she could find her, and wasn't able to find her. Well, this was in Wyoming, and we were approaching the end of the summer season, but we were still traveling around Wyoming. So we drove, as we traveled about, you know, boondocking throughout Wyoming, we would travel back and forth to that spot where we lost Vicky, and every few weeks we would go back, or every 4 or 5 days we would go back and check on Vicky to see if we could find her. And for 28 days she was missing. And we had, of course, posters up and alerts at the local Humane Society and all that, but we were actually in Gillette where Vicky was lost, or the very last day, as we were about to head south for the winter. I thought I would take my bike around and do one more, you know, pass through the area where we lost her and see if I could find her. And just as I left, Tina got a call from the Humane Society local pound, and they had found Vicky. And so she had been gone for a total of 28 days. And she was completely healthy, you know, a little bit pissed off, a little bit of attitude, but she was glad to be home, and you know, so, you know, that time she got lost, but that was our fault. That wasn't her fault. She was got left behind, so to speak. So, but anyway, the point is when we were down in Port Canaveral, there was a campground there that had a lot of feral cats that were in the woods there, and a lot of people were feeding them, taking care of them, but just a whole bunch of feral cats. And I suspect a lot of them just got left behind by their owners, who presumed that they were, you know, lost or dead, and did not wait long enough. And you've really got to wait, you know, I would say probably if a cat's lost, you know, 7 or 8 days would not be out of the question of waiting for them to come back. you know, for that first time that they get lost. Once they get lost that first time, I don't think you'll have an issue anymore, but there is that first time for them to get that lesson. Another thing about cats is cats don't chase cars, so you're not going to have that issue where cats get injured from getting hit by cars because they're chasing them. Now cats are a little bit lacking in awareness sometimes. Ours are pretty good. They'll actually become quite concerned when they see traffic on a road, you know, not too far away. If they see truck traffic, they'll every time they hear a truck go by, they kind of hunker down and take cover. But anyway, cats don't typically chase cars. Now, I did have a friend back in Wyoming who had a pet bobcat. Now, that was probably potentially could be an ideal pet. I'm not sure long term how it would work out, but her bobcat was kind of almost like a blend of cat and dog. The bobcat was quite protective of her, but yet still had that kind of, you know, aloof attitude. You know, we're equals and I'm not obedient to you, but I will hang around with you and will protect you and like to follow you around everywhere and cuddle with you and all that, the things that cats like to do. But yet had some of the features of a dog, that protectiveness. Now, of course, there is the issue. Some people are allergic to cats, and actually, I'm a little bit allergic to them. Not too bad. The cat dander is a little bit bothersome sometimes, so we try to keep them, you know, brushed pretty good. Our latest cat, Jasper, who's a little bit of a mix of a Russian blue, seems to be better. Apparently, that's a breed that has less problematic dander. But anyway, that's what it comes down to for us, is that cats make great traveling companions. They're independent, they're not obedient, and for that, you know, I respect them in some ways. I respect them more. Dogs, I love visiting other people's dogs, but they're not exactly great traveling companions. But I can see that they make great defenders. Now, the cats also consume a lot less food than most dogs. You get a small breed dog and they're not too bad, but you know, cats don't eat a whole lot, and they can feed themselves and will if you don't feed them too awful much. Oh, and they do also often like to bring back trophies. You know, if they've been out hunting and they've caught a mouse, rat, you know, mole, snake, bird, they'll sometimes, you know, or oftentimes will bring it back to share it with you because they love you. So anyway, cats versus dogs, we come down, you know, on the cat side, but that's just for us. I can see how for other people, you know, dogs, a good working breed dog out on a, you know, a ranch or something would be quite useful. One thing I do a little bit discouraged from is sometimes you see, you know, people that take advantage of the obedience of dogs, and you see people that like to control other people or other entities, other animals, that have this kind of, you know, I want to control and dominate. And I think that sometimes comes from, you know, malevolent motives, I guess you might say. And this desire to control others, whether it's people or animals, I think is a little bit of a sickness. And you know, I mean, I can see a certain amount of, you know, if you own a dog, to, you know, you want to have a little bit of obedience, but not this dominating control where I hate seeing a dog that's, you know, fearful because it's just been, you know, beaten into submission kind of thing. It disgusts me. And that's one thing you just won't see with the cat. Cat's going to be like, yeah, fuck you. I'm out of here. I'll find another place to live. So that's one thing I watch for, is to see, you know, whether some people say that the dogs has intuition about other people. To me, I'm often looking at the dog for clues about their owners. It's Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter, RaggedyEdge.net. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.